Hey, look at Facebook was the first one to pop up online. Maybe we're just having trouble last week. Yeah, well, there it is. Okay. All right, so let's make sure the other guys are live. Now it says the others are sending data, so we'll. All right, so it looks like we are live, which is wonderful, especially on Facebook, because last week we weren't live on Facebook. So welcome, everybody. It's Thursday night. It is another episode of the Roundtable, except this week we're going camping. I don't know if you guys noticed, but training camps have opened for a couple of teams, and for us in the football world, I don't care. I'm happy. Football's finally getting here. So Chris is back with us this week, which is awesome because I love chatting with our brother in the North, Chris. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Just happy to be back. It's been a little bit of a hiatus, just dry because football is at its low, or it was at its lull. So glad it's finally kicking back up.
I'd say it's that time of the year, unfortunately.
Yes.
So let me start with the sales pitch. Those of you guys that are watching know the deal. RotoHeat.com. Keep it locked there for all your updates, your news, all your good content that you need to help you win as we get closer and closer to week one. Don't forget to check out Sully's 2 Cents. We got great podcasts, and he's one of our great podcasters. It's over on iTunes, Google Podcasts, anywhere that you want podcasts, they've got them. Don't forget to check out Kevin Kloss. He's making it rain with all sorts of podcasts. He's got Beneath the Rim, which is a great basketball one. If you don't know basketball, you need to listen to that because that's a great podcast. I love listening to Kevin. He's also got the Blockheads, which is fun as well, and that's football focused. We know our fearless leader, Rick Butts, has got lots of things going on with the Heat Seekers. He's getting some podcasting and whatnot going, and we've got other stuff coming. We got lots of content that we've been working on. For those of you in the IDP world, I've been working with Rick and bouncing ideas off of him. I've got some fun statistical-based things that are going to be coming here soon for those of you that are into IDP. I won't share it too much yet, but just to say it's cool. It's good information. I think it'll help you guys be successful, at least from the defensive side. And we're going to talk a little bit defense tonight because we're going to talk camp news. So we're going to talk things that are going on, at least with those teams that are in camp, and we also have some news about those that aren't in camp. There's some other big news that's been coming out this week. So keep it locked into rotoheat.com. Keep it locked into, we've got the Discord chats where everybody's talking. It's good stuff there. We've got YouTube. Check out RotoHeat on YouTube. Check out twitch.tv/RotoHeat. I mean, you name it, we're there. We're making it rain content in whatever platform you want. Twitter, obviously you see Chris and mine's Twitter handles here. At RotoHeat Fantasy is the RotoHeat Twitter handle, so make sure you get on that. I know they're on Instagram. You name it, it's there. Probably not on, like dating apps, but just about every other app has got RotoHeat on there. So that being said, sales pitches are done. We're going to move into the actual bread and butter of today's episode, which is camp news. We're going to start in Denver because Denver seems to have the most news and probably the most interesting news so far this week. So first and foremost, Drew Lock has finally signed his deal. And Denver said, F you, buddy. We're not giving you any special QB premiums. You shut your mouth and you sign that contract. You take that $3.1 million guaranteed and show up into camp. How do you feel about that, Chris? How do you feel about that whole situation with Drew Lock and his I need more money?
See, I think it's different for the quarterback than it is for any other position, like, say, Josh Jacobs when he held out of his contract, because all these guys are starting to see now, especially from the running back position, how the pay's working and how they're kind of getting screwed with it. Whereas quarterback, dude, you're going to be in the league if you're good for 15, 20 years. Just sign your damn contract and get out there, okay? You won't be backing up Joe Flacco for too long. Prove your worth, and then you'll get paid like quarterback should be the last one to be worried about getting paid, in my opinion.
Well, and the great thing about the second round specifically, is that you're only going to get 4 years. It's not like there's that extra fifth year that teams are going to option you for. So he'll get paid quicker than any of these first round quarterbacks.
Exactly.
So he should be at least happy about that.
Yeah, there's it's one thing it's even when Bosa held out of his contract there. Like again, another example as to when it's those guys don't really 30, 32 years old unless you're Frank Gore sort of guy, but they just
70.
Exactly, they just don't last as long, right? So just sign your damn contract and get out in the field.
I agree completely. It especially nowadays, the way that contracts are worked. I mean, it's slotted. You get what you're going to get. I mean, you're kind of in this range, and especially for them. Dalton Reisner was taking like the pick before him. Like, dude, what do you think you're going to get paid more than the guy who's protecting you? Last thing you want to say is, "Oh, dude, I'm more important than you," and watch him whiff on a block and you just get laid out because you're thinking you're better than everybody else.
Yeah. Sorry. What were you saying about who's better than who there?
Yeah. Right. You need me. So that being said, so the next news in Denver, the next two pieces of information, I think will be more relevant for this year and for the next, at least the next couple years. Vic Fangio came out very quickly and said both Philip Lindsay and Emmanuel Sanders will be good to go. So that makes me think that Emmanuel Sanders should be much closer to ready for Week 1. Same with Philip Lindsay. It sounds like both those guys really won't have any major restrictions going into camp. Now, obviously, they'll probably be treated a little bit differently, seeing as they're much more important pieces than some of these other guys. But what do you take on that kind of news where those guys are going to be ready to roll this week now that they're in camp?
Well, I will start off. I'm glad you brought up Emmanuel Sanders because I picked up Emmanuel Sanders last year in a dynasty pool in a win now position, and I picked him up and he got hurt that same week, so it kind of hurt.
Ouch.
And I didn't think. I mean, with the injury he had, I wasn't expecting him to be back for Week 1. And hearing the news that I got the same alert that he's running excellent, or I forget how it was worded, but that he's looking good, and I was like, damn, that's good to see. I'm glad to see that.
Well, with Fangio saying it, that's a big deal. The head coach comes out and says it, that's a big deal.
Oh, for sure. And then Philip Lindsay, I was never concerned about his status. I mean, this is going to sound kind of bad, but it was just a broken wrist, so I mean, I wasn't too concerned about it. So. Well,
but you got, think about David Johnson a few years back when he broke his wrist in Week 1. I mean, it can take time, but he came back that next year and was ready to go. So with Philip Lindsay, as long as he took care of himself in the offseason, I wasn't nearly as concerned. But he's a pass catcher, so you got to be careful with those hands and those wrists and those arms, a little bit. But yeah. So so for fantasy perspective, what do you make of these two this year? And maybe even for the next couple years. Obviously, Philip Lindsay's got competition with Royce Freeman, and Emmanuel Sanders has some young guys behind him.
I wasn't hot on Lindsay last year. I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. Who's this kid, right? Like all the hype around Royce Freeman, and even when I was watching football, you heard Royce Freeman, and then as the season went on, I started hearing more about Lindsay, and then. As I'm watching in my fantasy football playoffs, I'm seeing all these teams that I'm going against have Lindsay, and I'm like, holy shit, who is this guy? So after doing some digging and stuff and chatting with you guys and whatnot, it's like I didn't realize he's actually how good he was, being undrafted, coming in, 1,000-yard season. Like I have high hopes for him. I think he's going to be the back there. I mean, I think Royce Freeman's just going to be the spellback kind of guy. I don't see anything. I don't see Lindsay losing that job unless he gets injured, as we've seen, and as even the Denver coaching staff has said. And then Emmanuel Sanders, he's risky because I don't like Joe Flacco as much. I'm not so much of a fan of Joe Flacco, but I still think he's going to play a vital role there, even just to open up the lane for those younger guys like Sutton and Fant. Like, it's just gonna. He's just his presence on the field is gonna. Not to say he is Antonio Brown, but it's that veteran presence on the field where he's gonna demand coverage, right? So But I still think he's going to be productive if he is out there. Just depends on how good Joe Flacco actually is.
Well, the nice thing about Emmanuel Sanders is as you get up there in years as a wide receiver in any of the positions, when you come into a team, they start to have you look as kind of the mentor. So even if he still has value this year, which I think he has some, as long as he's healthy, he has value this year. But he's also teaching Deshaun Hamilton and some of these young guys. I don't know about Cortland Sutton. I think Cortland Sutton's the man. So I don't necessarily think Emmanuel Sanders is going to teach him much.
No.
But he's helping in mentoring. He's it could be a safety blanket because now you got to think of it. They've churned those special, all of their special players in the last few years. So now they're leaning on young guys. Your running backs are both second-year pros, wide receivers. Your tight ends rookie, and Noah Fant. I mean, you need some veteran presence to help kind of calm guys, help them move forward, know how to prepare, how to be professionals. So I'm interested to see how Emmanuel Sanders bounces back, but I can see him more as like you mentioned, kind of the decoy role, because Sutton's going to be taking the top off the defense kind of thing, or something like that. But it's interesting to see what's going on with that. And it'll be interesting to see how Flacco handles it. He's not great with those short to intermediary passing routes. Obviously, we know he's a better deep ball thrower, which he's kind of weak at that too anymore. So,
yeah,
right.
I mean, the only good thing he's got going for him in Denver is that he actually has, I think, a better receiving core than the Ravens had when he was there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, so it'll be interesting to see. But I just think he just doesn't care anymore. Like, he got paid. He's whatever, right?
Well, he got away from Baltimore, which he needed. Especially with Joe Flacco's been a starter his entire career. He doesn't want to be a backup, So, I mean, I don't blame him for what he did. I don't know that he's gonna. You're not gonna see a Peyton Manning type situation where Flacco comes in and they win Super Bowls.
No chance.
He got lucky last time. Elway did when Peyton came and they won. This time it's just not going to be that way.
No, not a chance.
Okay, so we talked Denver. Oh, on the defensive side, which Chris, I don't know how IDP deep you go. So this may or may not. You may not have anything to say about this. He's a guy that I have in my top 100 IDP players, but linebacker Todd Davis partially tore his calf muscle. Now, the tough thing with a calf muscle tear, and we saw it with Antonio Brown last year, he had a calf muscle tear like week 16. And, you could either be out for like 2 weeks or 6 or 8 weeks based on how the muscle tears. And for me, Todd Davis I was excited about because Todd Davis, Von Miller, guys like this, Vic Fangio makes linebackers better. Like Vic Fangio is a great defensive mind, so I was a little excited about that this year going into IDP. I am putting you a little on the spot. How deep are you with IDP? Does Todd Davis even register with you?
To be honest, no.
Okay.
I thought you were going to mention. I thought you were going to mention Von Miller and what Fangio said about Von Miller today.
Well, Von Miller should be a beast, but yeah, go ahead and tell me about Von Miller. He's the man.
Well, no, I was on Good Morning Football this morning. They were talking about Fangio mentioned how he thinks that there's more room for Von Miller to get better, and it's just insane to think about it. I mean, he hasn't had. I don't know what they say. He hasn't had a 20-sack season in 3 years or 3 years, something like that.
3 years, yeah. Well, and the cool thing is Von Miller's better than Khalil Mack, and look what Fangio did with Khalil Mack in Chicago last year. I mean, Von Miller can be exponentially better and consistently productive. I was talking to Paul Velblum. I jumped in a league with those guys. I wanted to get into a deeper Devi IDP league, so I jumped in with these guys in a league they've got. And we were talking Khalil Mack, and I love Khalil Mack. Great player, great fantasy player. But I liken Khalil Mack to Brandon Cooks. At the end of the year, his stat line looks great, but that was like 4 weeks of good production and a bunch of mediocre weeks. Brandon Cooks I love, but he's not consistently productive. So Khalil Mack I see like that. But Von Miller, to go to the next step, Von Miller is productive every week, and he can give you great consistent production every week. So Fangio with Miller, and Miller only being 30, I think you can get a couple really good years out of him still from the IDP side of things. So very good call, and you're absolutely right. Von Miller should be nice. I'm not selling him out just yet unless I get the right deal. That's for sure.
Yeah, bye. I like Khalil Mack, so
I do, and I like Khalil Mack too.
On that.
But I would not be buying Khalil Mack just because I don't like. I like consistent production, and Khalil Mack is going to have huge weeks, but then that means you have to make sure you've got a really nice guy to pair with him that's going to keep consistent production when Mack falls off or gets hurt, or any of those things. And that's always tough. For me, I'm like, I'll just let somebody else deal with that, and I'll look elsewhere, unless the deal makes sense for me.
Yeah, exactly. Sure enough.
Okay, so I think that. Do you have anything else out of Denver that you've heard that we haven't talked about?
No, that pretty much covers it for me.
I thought so. I was poking around, but even I was reading through Denver news and some other local writers, and it's and those are kind of the big topics right now. Is kind of the injuries that aren't huge injuries but could be annoying and things like that. So I'll move to our team. Because we got some news out of Detroit and I don't know if it's good news, but the team is going to meet with Drew Rosenhaus, and Drew Rosenhaus is the agent for both Darius Slay and Damon Harrison. I don't know if it's good news because Drew Rosenhaus, he's Drew Rosenhaus. He's kind of the agent to the stars, and he's one of those guys that can be great to work with or be terrible to work with from what I hear. So they're going to meet with them. The tough thing for Detroit is you need Damon Harrison. Without Damon Harrison, you're, a back half of the league run defense. With Damon Harrison, you're top 10. Darius Slay you need because, you have a slot corner you paid this year and a bunch of young corners that may or may not be any good. So what are you thinking about Detroit, their defense? Some of these things that are going on. How are you feeling about our Lions? And don't listen to Sean. 10-4. I want it this
year. It's so hard. I've had so much faith for so much years, man. It's just so hard for me to be assertive with how I feel about them. I just I like our defense absolutely. Like we have a solid defense. I'm pretty sure we finished just outside the top 10 last year, if not top 10. I think we finished 12th overall or something. So it's not bad. But I just think there was just losing Tate halfway through the season and the changes on offense. If they can get their stuff together and Golladay shapes out to be the wide receiver one there he's supposed to be, and KJ and CJ Anderson can tag team that backfield, I mean, we could surprise that division. It's a high hope because our defense is pretty solid. So, I don't know. It's tough for me to judge my Lions. I'm just so negative about them all the time.
Well, and unfortunately, they don't really, they always kick us in the nuts. So as soon as we get excited, we had those years with Jim Schwartz where they were nasty and they had an attitude, and then they just couldn't beat anybody, or they go to New Orleans and just get pummeled in the playoffs, or Jim Caldwell can only get us to 9-7. I mean, our Lions do everything to make us sad, Yeah. But people, I mean, when you read, even you were saying Good Morning Football. I was listening to them the other day, and and they're still singing the praises of Matthew Stafford, like he's an amazing quarterback. And don't get me wrong, I think he's probably a top half of the league quarterback, top 10 to 15. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. I mean, I think he needs to prove it in the playoffs at some point in his career to be a better than top 10. But
he's been in the league for 10 years and doesn't have a playoff win. He's got I'm pretty sure he's got 3 5,000-yard passing seasons. So I mean, he can do it. But last year, they just said it about a month ago or something that he had a fracture in his back.
Right.
kind of like the same injury that I believe Derek had, or something like that. Probably, I think. But anyways, it explains why he had his second worst statistical year to date so far. So I don't know. I think everybody's really low on Stafford right now, and that I'd be trying to buy him if I can. But
well, that's a funny thing is you say that, but as soon as I made some offers in Superflex leagues for him, the guy's like, oh no, I'm not going to sell him. Like, what the crap? Like, people aren't really well, yeah. I've made at least 3 offers this month for him in Superflex leagues, and I get nothing. Like, I get people looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, oh, all right, well, fair enough.
Well,
so if you're going, you have to pay, market value or better. It seems like.
I guess, yeah. Well, no, because I was just talking to somebody today about it, and that just because we were talking about making a trade, and Stafford was involved, and yeah, I was kind of getting him for cheap, so it kind of had me thinking, like, is this what the market's looking like for him, or what? Just because he had such a bad year last year, I just thought maybe you could get him for cheap, but maybe people are smarter than I think they are.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're part of the RotoHeat community, you are smarter.
Yes, it's true.
Because you know the right community to be a part of. So Anthony said, Stafford is underrated, but the team around him was never good enough, in my opinion. Anthony, you asked what I offered. I'd have to look. I know 2020 picks were involved, and I think one of the guys that owned Stafford was kind of like his QB 2-3, and I threw in pieces that he needed. I think he needed like a tight end, and I threw in some young pieces and picks. So I tried to offer a package for him. But.
See, I just joined a Superflex league. I just joined Superflex leagues this year, like just this past end of this season, I guess. And I just feel like for me, if I'm trading a quarterback in a Superflex, I almost need a quarterback in return, unless I'm trading like my 4th quarterback, right? I feel like you need to roster 3 startable quarterbacks.
Well, yeah, I mean it's smart to have 3 startable quarterbacks, but it depends on what those quarterbacks look like. Like in the RotoHeat 96, a couple weeks back we talked about trades. Well, I had made a trade that got me Russell Wilson, so I have Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, and Kirk Cousins. Well, my running back is Saquon, and that's it.
That's dirty.
Yeah. So I'm trying to move Kirk Cousins to get me a running back. So I'm looking at teams and going, all right, give me your worst quarterback, so whatever the bottom feeder is, and he'll be my bye week fill-in, and then a running back to pair with Saquon, so it's not just Saquon doing the heavy lifting. And and then my quarterbacks are Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, and then whatever. And I'm not like crazy excited about it. Like that tells me in 2020 I'm looking for a quarterback in the draft or in a trade, but I feel like it's good. Wilson's top 10, Goff's top 10.
I mean, you have those 2 quarterbacks. I'd be pretty pleased with those 2 quarterbacks. Yeah. You don't think you have anything to worry about,
right? So. So in a super flex platform, I mean Stafford I think is still a QB2 kind of back in QB1 depending on Darrell Bevel's offense. Like if he really focuses on the run and he doesn't let Stafford uncork it and really go to town at times, because there's gonna be weeks where he's facing teams like Arizona. Arizona this year is not going to be playing Detroit with Patrick Peterson, so that means they've got no cornerbacks blocking Kenny Galladay or Marvin Jones or whatever else we trot out there. It's like you got to let Stafford uncork this thing and go to town, put up 400 yards and stuff like that. I mean, because it's just the defense is going to let you because they don't have anything to stop you.
Exactly. Just let him throw it. Just let him do it. I actually had an offer today. Somebody offered me Jared Cook and a 2022 for Derek Carr in a Superflex. Yeah. That's kind of how I felt about it too.
that's not even remotely close to. I mean, like that's Jared Cook. I know, man. I don't know why people like Jared Cook. I know he did okay in Oakland, and he's had up and down times. I don't think going to New Orleans is going to make him like this amazing tight end. Like people always get excited about tight ends, but they haven't really been hugely successful, if I can remember, since. Jimmy Graham? I think Jimmy Graham's really been the only truly successful tight end in New Orleans. They brought through so many retreads, Kobe Fleener from Indy, they went out and got, and he was nothing. I mean, they've done that time and time again. It's like, you think Jared Cook's going to be amazing?
I'm glad you mentioned that because like even as soon as Jimmy Graham went to the Packers, everybody was all excited about him going there, and he went to Seattle first, and he wasn't anything too special, and then he went to the Packers, and everybody was excited about it, nothing too crazy. So that's a good point. Jared Cook was really the only offensive weapon that Derek Carr had last year, so
he was bound to get all the catches.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, so Anthony tells me to check out. Oh well, yeah, you're right, Anthony. Jared Cook is overvalued, and I'm glad that we've got more intelligent Roto Heat community members agreeing with us because we're right. All right, so Anthony tells me to check out his team in the Superflex, and I have to just because his team name's sweet. It's called Living in a Van Down by the River. I mean, how can you not love that classic Chris Farley take on a football name? So, and that's the interesting thing.
Your dog must be really thirsty.
Dude, my dog is insane. My dog is like, I feel like he only is thirsty when it comes to Thursday nights at 9 o'clock. Most of the time he's just laying around the house sleeping. On Thursday nights at 9 o'clock, he all of a sudden goes to town on the food and the water. Like,
he's just going to town.
He's ridiculous. That's what happens when you have a Great Dane.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a nice team, Anthony. I think your team is probably pretty successful, or should be this year. So in a super flex type situation, I like Stafford. In a 1 QB, Stafford's not your starter, or hopefully he's not your starter. So,
well, that doesn't make me feel good. No, because in my one dynasty in a 1 quarterback league, I have Stafford, Sam Darnold, and Kirk Cousins. So,
well, that's okay then, because you can just roll with whatever the matchup looks like. So, yeah. Sam Darnold should progress in year 2. The cool thing a lot of NFL teams have been doing, and for those of you out there, go to YouTube and start checking some of these NFL teams' channels. Like I just watched, I mentioned a few, maybe a month or so back, Cleveland Browns has started a video series called, I think it's called like Building the Browns, and it's Cleveland Browns YouTube channel. And it goes through, and they're talking some pretty good information about the team. Well, the Jets just put out one, and I just lost Chris. Uh-oh. The Jets just put out one that is pretty sweet too. I think it's called like One Jets Drive, and they talk a lot. In the first episode, they're talking mostly Adam Gase and the GM Johnson, but they talk about Sam Darnold and they talk about his progression and how he's connecting with Quincy Nunwood very well. They're getting on the same page with their route trees and their combinations. So I think Sam Darnold gives you value. And he could be a spot starter. Kirk Cousins is definitely probably your starter most weeks, except for weeks that Stafford probably has a favorable matchup. But that's the cool thing about having 3 quarterbacks. You can go with the hot hand and probably be successful 9 times out of 10.
I wasn't so high on Bell going to the Jets. I didn't think anything too special of it. But Rick has my webcam froze. Sorry there, Anthony. But Rick pretty much convinced me that Bell is going to be a monster with the Jets, just as we all know, based on volume. Based on volume alone, right? So, and I mean, the last 3 or 4 weeks there, Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson just looked like they couldn't miss. So, I mean,
yeah, and they're gonna make a good combination. Robbie Anderson is really good. From what I've seen in the last year or two, he's really gotten better at getting away from the coverage and really not getting hung up at the line. So that's going to work out well for Darnold. Quincy Nunwood being the kind of the short to intermediary route guy, I think is going to help him. He's got good players at all 3 levels, from running back to the middle of the field to the deep. I mean, that's huge. And once he gets Chris Herndon back at tight end, that's a guy he built chemistry with last year. They've got a nice little offense going there.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited actually for the Jets. I think that the Jets are going to take that AFC crown over there from the Patriots.
As long as Adam Gase stays out of their way. He's the one thing that could ruin that entire team.
Yes.
He was great with Chicago and Denver as a coordinator. He gets to Miami, and some of it's the team. I mean, they were a crappy team, and the GM plays in there too. So
I have no hope for Miami at all.
Well, Brian Flores, he's a good defensive coordinator. I just don't know. I don't know how well he's going to transition to a team like Miami, who's really lacking talent. They really need to blow it up. They were smart to go get Rosen. I like Rosen as kind of a foundational guy to build around. But they should have shipped out all those receivers and started over. They should have taken whatever they could have gotten, built good offense and defensive lines, and start that way.
Yeah, their defensive line, I believe was okay last year. Like, the defense isn't too bad, but there is just nothing on the offensive side of that ball at all. I feel bad for Fitzpatrick and for Rosen, to be honest.
Yeah, Well, Kenyon Drake, I think, has value, and I think Myles Gaskin could have a little bit of value for him and be decent players. At the receiver position, when you've got guys in the community, and we have the conversation now in the last week or so, talk about Preston Williams, and I see him a lot on Reddit. People are asking questions about Preston Williams. It's like, when you've got that conversation going, a UDFA is kind of the hot name on your team. That tells you what you need to know.
Yeah. No, you're telling me this guy's name, and I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah. Preston Williams is a kid they signed as an undrafted free agent, and he's kind of the talk of camp. He's been making a lot of catches, and and before training camp and OTAs, he was everybody loves him. But that happens with teams. Like, every team has their one name that comes out of nowhere that everyone loves, but then really isn't much of anything. Sully does not agree. Sully says the Jets have the 27th ranked O-line, and he won't be getting the work everyone thinks either. So we're talking about Lev Bell.
Where is that on Twitch?
Yeah, he's over on Twitch.
Oh.
Sully's flipping the script and joining us on Twitch. So I try to keep track of a little bit of all of our sites to make sure everybody's getting properly commented back to. And I think Sully's right. I think the Jets, you can build the narrative both ways. You can build the narrative that Lev Bell has this amazing year this year and he gets all the touches and they throw him the ball a ton. I also could say, well, as he started to flame out the last year he was playing, he didn't look great down the stretch. And he's going to a team that's younger and has a worse O-line, so he certainly could be bad. I mean, it could go either way. Rick loves him. I know if Rick's watching, Rick loves Lev Bell. And the league's kind of split on him. Everybody that I talk to, everybody either loves him or hates him. There's really not an in-between with him. There's, the team I just got from Paul has Lev Bell on it, and my first thought was, who am I going to trade this guy to? I just don't want to have any shares of him because I don't, it's almost like my conversation we had about Khalil Mack and the fact that if you aren't consistent, well, he's got a ton of red flags. So red flags and inconsistency, I would rather somebody else take the chance on him than me.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid point. I don't know. I was just watching some stuff that they had on Good Morning Football, and I know that those guys pump these guys up, like make them look good.
Yeah.
But man, some of the catches that Lev Bell had, yeah, I'm just like, dude.
If he's devoted to football and he isn't focused on his rap career or going sailing or any other crap he does, he should be good. Like, he's got the talent, but is his head in the game? And that's part of my concern.
It's valid for sure. Yeah.
So Sully thinks he's an RB2. He doesn't hate him. But then, moments earlier, you were saying how crappy that O-line is and this, that, and the other. Man, you're so hot or cold with me, Sully. So hot or cold. I'll tell you. All right, what were you going to say?
No, nothing. I was just about to get into another rabbit hole, but you can...
There's plenty of more opportunity for that. I really only have 3 more actual pieces of news that I want to talk about. So let's jump over to... We'll go to Philly because this is kind of a softball. It's not really major news, but, I think it's interesting. So NBC Sports Philly is reporting that they're expecting them to only keep 3 running backs, and those 3 running backs are Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders, and Corey Clement. So that would leave 3 or 4 other options kind of off the roster completely. It doesn't surprise me that they're thinking about only keeping 3 and only being those guys. The interesting thing to me is Howard isn't really probably going to be focused on pass catching because we know he's got hands like frying pans. Corey Clement is almost exclusively a pass catcher. because he's afraid to move in between the tackles. And then Miles Sanders kind of does both. So do you think it's going to be a muddy running back group this year, and then Sanders takes it in the future, or do you think Sanders can quickly take the reins there?
Well, first of all, I think it's going to be absolutely ugly no matter what happens. It's just going to be an ugly situation over there. They didn't sign Jordan Howard for nothing, right? Just to have him hang around in the locker room. So I can see, and I don't know, it's tough because with the way that running backs are acting these days, like, okay, so Miles Sanders takes over the backfield, and okay, yeah, he has 2 solid good years, maybe 3, and then, I mean, this is all hypothetical, right? And then what happens if he decides to hold out or sit out like these other running backs are doing now, so that he can get paid, right? I mean, I'm just, what if teams start thinking about that kind of stuff, right?
Melvin Gordon's gonna get into camp. Like, there's no way that dude holds. What leverage does he have? I mean, they can say, all right, well, we got 2 running backs that filled in just fine for you last year. Go ahead and sit on the bench. Like,
I know, but like, it's just drama. It's just unneeded drama, right? But going back to the topic here, I think it's going to be exactly like you said. I think it's going to be a 3-headed monster because that's what Philly's done for the past couple of years, anyways. So Howard's going to be your first and second down yardage guy, and then Clement will probably come in there third downs. Miles might come in there the third, like every third series or whatever. So it's hard to predict, but that's what I'm kind of staying away from for now. I mean, unless you can get Miles Sanders. I mean, I won't take Jordan Howard I'm not looking to draft him in a startup.
Yeah, the interesting thing with Jordan Howard is he's still young enough that, okay, let's say he has a decent year this year. He gets you somewhere around 1,000 yards and 3 to 5 touchdowns. And let's say next year they decide they move in a different direction. He could still go somewhere and be a nice kind of RB, kind of a handcuff type guy and still have value. Like, I like Jordan Howard. I mean, I've always liked Jordan Howard, but it's just interesting to me on how he's so quickly fallen out of people's good graces.
Okay,
like, holy cow.
Thank you. I'm so glad you said that because, like, it's actually mind-boggling to me that this running back who rushed for 1,000 yards each year up until last year when he was 60 yards short. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden now this guy is just, he's going to be a handcuff or whatever. Like, it's just crazy to me to think like that, right? Like, he hasn't done anything to prove that he can't handle the workload.
Well, and especially for the way that he runs the ball. I mean, you're seeing a lot of running backs right now. A lot of these guys coming out of college, people immediately push them towards being like the pass catcher, kind of get it to him in space, and they don't necessarily want to do the dirty work. Jordan Howard does the dirty work, and he does it pretty well,
Oh, yeah.
So it's like that role very much has value. You need guys that are going to get you consistent, 3 to 5 yards a carry in the offense. So Jordan Howard, I think, could still be valuable for another 2 to 3 years, I would expect.
If he goes to the right situation, absolutely. Like, I mean, I'd love to see him go to the Lions, but the Lions don't ever take any of these decent running backs that go in the market. They settle for 30-year-old running backs.
I was about to say they wait for the old guys. Looking at you, C.J. Anderson,
LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah, that must have been a friends and family discount. I mean, knowing all those New England Patriots guys.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm really, what's up, Boomer? All right, he says he's Latavius Murray. So he said, well, is that a bad thing, though? So he's saying Jordan Howard's, he's Latavius Murray. Is that a bad thing, though? Latavius Murray, when given the opportunity, hasn't been terrible.
No, and I think he's going to do well. Yeah. I think he'll do okay filling in the same role that he did, or that Mark Ingram did, filling in for the Saints. Right? He could be that bruising back like Mark Ingram was. Why not?
He's not going to get suspended.
Yeah.
He's already better than Mark Ingram because he'll make sure he stays on the field.
Exactly.
Oh, Amir Abdullah. Oh, don't say that, Anthony. That hurts my very soul when you say that name. Although the way it plays out, he could be the starting running back in Minnesota. Dalvin Cook can't stay healthy.
Who was that running back that for the Lions that got a concussion and then just stopped playing after like 2 years?
Javid Best.
Yes.
Oh, I love Javid Best. That dude was so good.
So do I, man. I know.
So good. And then he had to retire and then play flag football because he couldn't get, he couldn't have a hand touch him or he'd get a concussion. Yeah, Amir Abdullah is one of those guys that, I watched All or Nothing with the Cardinals, and they talked about the Cardinals wanting to take him, and Detroit took him just before them. Like, man, I wish the Cardinals would have taken him, and we would have taken David Johnson, but whatever.
Yeah. Wouldn't that have been nice?
We'd have probably ruined him, too. All right, Jurassic Scoop over on Twitch says, if he didn't go to FSU, he doesn't count for Boomer. Man, Boomer, you're getting called out already. I'm just saying, you better talk nicer to your teammates or your league mates because people are calling you out. All right, so we talked about Philly. I'm really surprised the Philly topic didn't get more comments. And this is a family show, so I won't say that Craig is probably drunk, other than to say that Boomer says Craig is probably drunk. Hey, you know what? That keeps things interesting, right? All right, so I really expected the Philly topic to get a few more comments here from the guys that are watching because we got a nice audience this evening, and but everybody kind of knows how it's going to go, I guess. So we'll move on to Baltimore, which it isn't big news, but for those of you that, and I kept seeing him throughout the offseason, people would bring up the name Kenneth Dixon, and people would immediately start talking about him, and it's like there's no way he's going to do anything. Well, now we're getting reports out of Baltimore that he probably won't even make the 53-man roster. What's your take on that?
I like Kenneth Dixon. That's unfortunate. He was a solid pass-catching back. He kind of reminds me of like Duke Johnson. It's the same kind of love that you guys have for Duke Johnson. That's how I feel about him. I like him.
I don't have an issue with Kenneth Dixon, although I may have an issue with you comparing him to Duke Johnson.
I think I might be thinking of somebody else here, actually. No, I'm thinking of Javarius Allen, Buck Allen.
Oh, you're thinking of Buck Allen?
Sorry.
No,
sorry, guys.
I don't have any issues with Kenneth Dixon. I mean, unfortunately, injuries cut his opportunities.
Yeah.
So it's tough. Kenneth Dixon could have been something, but now that time has come and gone. I mean, Baltimore has just crowded that backfield. Gus Edwards and Mark Ingram and they've done just a lot of different guys that he just doesn't have a chance. So they're expecting him not to make the 53-man roster. The bigger question is, if Kenneth Dixon is not in Baltimore, does he get a chance somewhere else?
I don't know. The running back market is ugly right now.
There's guys still sitting out there. I mean, Jeremy Hill is still out there. Orleans Darkwood, guys who have had opportunities in the past are still sitting out there waiting to sign.
This is going to sound bad of me to say, and I don't want to be that guy, but I think we just have to wait for some injuries in training camp. Sorry.
It's inevitable. All you Zeke owners better watch out. Chris just jinxed you guys.
I have Tony Pollard, so it's okay.
Tony Pollard. That's awesome. I know. You know what, Anthony? You're spot on. He says Ken Dixon is the RB version of Kevin White. True story. I mean, all the talent in the world, highly drafted in Baltimore, and couldn't stay healthy. Same with Kevin White. Now he's in Arizona and probably never going to see the field because they've got 84 wide receivers. That's a good one. That's a good one, Anthony. That's a very good comp. I would agree with that completely. Okay. So
I can't. I'm just looking at the Twitch. I'm on Twitch now. Looking at what Sully said. I can't handle Rez. He busts my balls too much.
We may see a Canadian Civil War start this year.
Oh yeah, I love it.
All right, so the last bit of news isn't going to make a lick of difference to you, but it's IDP related. And for any of our IDP brothers on there that are watching on any of our platforms, I got to bring it up. Deion Jones just signed an extension. He is the stud linebacker for Atlanta. He just received a new 4-year, $57 million extension. if you're in IDP, Deion Jones is the name that you know because he's a stud. I mean, he's young, he's very talented, he's got a lot of upside, and he's probably in the top 5 conversation when it comes to linebackers. So that's big news out of Atlanta. They needed to lock him up. There's some other guys they need to lock up still, but Deion Jones is the big name. So for those of you that are watching that are IDP guys, Anthony, you need to get on this IDP action, dude. IDP is huge. IDP is awesome. That it is made every league I've been in that's done it so much more dynamic. When you've got linebackers who are pointing up with some of the nicer wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1s, that's huge. I'm a big fan of IDP because it helps expand, and you don't have to be very good at drafting offense. If you're good at drafting defense, that helps balance out your league. So if you're not in IDP, I would give it a try. It's fun, man. I just joined, our boy Paul's watching. I just jumped onto one of his leagues because I wanted to go even further, and I wanted to expand on Devi. So this is a big league. It's got IDP, it's got Devi. I mean, it's huge. So I like to challenge myself and try to go a little crazier with the league type. So and Paul says here, since you're a dumb team, you pay big money to a middle linebacker and RB. I like both players, but Atlanta isn't smart. Paul, I mean the RB money, I'm not excited about what they've done with Devonta Freeman in the past. But Deion Jones is like the quarterback of that defense. Like, that dude is like the smartest guy on that defense. I think you have to pay him. You don't want to lose him, especially with teams in your division that could easily use him. If Atlanta lets Deion Jones go in free agency and he goes to New Orleans, he crushes you for the next 5 to 7 years. I mean, that's just Paul, I don't mind the take. I just don't know if I agree with it. Atlanta is dumb as a team. They made some poor moves. I mean, I think letting Tevin Coleman walk in free agency was maybe not the smartest move. But
yeah,
they've made dumber decisions. That's for sure. Anthony, yeah, I know. I used to play it. Just give. Well, I don't mind you giving me a hard time. That keeps things interesting. So those are the big pieces of news that are happening right now. So as we move into camp season, by this time next week, everybody's in camp. I know next Saturday I'll be down in Indy at Colts training camp. I'm going down there next weekend, so there'll be some good stuff that comes out of that. I hope. Hoping to see some of these guys in action. All the Devin Funchess lovers out there. I'm hoping to see how things go for him. I want to see how he fits in that offense. I want to see if they really are going to start playing him as a big slot receiver. So I'll be posting and updating on what's going on down there.
I'm just gonna love seeing Devin Funchess beside T.Y. Hilton, because Luck's actually gonna have somebody to throw to now outside of Zach Pascal or Chester Rogers' sake.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely those are depth chart guys. Like, those shouldn't have been guys that you were relying on.
Under number 2s, yeah, no.
Dude, I'm interested for sure.
I think Funchess is just gonna feed, man. Oh, yeah, like I can see like Ebron numbers, but elevated Ebron numbers.
Well, so now Indy's quickly gotten themselves into they've got a lot of mouths to feed. So you think your wide receiver 1 is T.Y. Hilton, wide receiver 2 is probably Paris Campbell, Devin Funchess. Like, they're probably, like Devin Funchess will probably be in the slot, so he may not be outside, and number 1 and 2 are typically your outside guys. So you've got 3 wide receivers that are going to have to be fed. You've got Eric Ebron, Jack Doyle coming back. Then you've got Naheem Hines, Marlon Mack in the backfield. I mean, that's the same concerns I have with Cleveland with a lot of mouths to feed. And I'm not comparing Odell and Jarvis to anything Indy's got, but it's just a lot of players to think about, and if they're going to try to run the ball more, I mean, something's got to give, that's a lot of balls going around. So Anthony says Funchess is Kelvin Benjamin 2.0.
Wow.
You and Anthony are going to have a throwdown here soon.
Wow. My take on that is I've never been too high on rookie wide receivers ever since Keenan Allen came into the league, I think. Well, I mean, I don't see Paris Campbell as a elite wide receiver coming out of college. Like, is he? I never really followed him too much coming out of college, so I'm not too sure on him. But
Well, they've got to help him develop his route tree. I mean, the issue you have with him is that at Ohio State he ran 2 or 3 routes all the time. You know, he's fast and he's going to get deep, but he needs a lot. He needs a lot of development, which is why I think this year, he's a stash, but he's not going to get you anything. Paul says Campbell, Funchess, and Doyle are likely going to cannibalize each other, making none of them fantasy relevant for 2019. Look at Paul dropping hot takes tonight. Campbell,
I'm not
Funchess,
worried about. No, can't. No.
I need to see Doyle's health because he was never like this amazing tight end, and I don't know if his injuries are going to hurt him, especially because he's getting a little bit up there in years. Are they going to focus on him being the blocker, so he's going to lose value anyway because Ebron and Luck have the relationship,
I just think that everybody's low on Funchess because he had a bad year last year, and I mean it wasn't really his fault because Cam Newton apparently had a messed up shoulder. So
Cam Newton's not the best quarterback anymore.
Well, and that too, right? Like I don't like Cam Newton at all as a quarterback, really. I mean, he does his fantasy points, whatever, but I just not a fan of him as a fantasy quarterback. So
he's a better Madden quarterback than real life quarterback.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, I mean, so I just think that and it's Andrew Luck throwing the ball too, right? So I think that it's going to be there's going to be a lot of mouths to feed, but Andrew Luck is just going to dish it. 100%.
Well, and especially now that we know that he's 100% healthy, I mean, Andrew Luck is going to continue to be just dominant. He really is, one of the best quarterbacks out there, and he's one of the better quarterbacks at making your receivers better. He puts the ball in a place that helps the receivers catch it and run, or things like that. He does the little things really well as the big things. So, I expect good things for that offense. I'm just, I'm cautiously optimistic. Devin Funchess has never been the best receiver when it comes to catching the ball. In Michigan he was a tight end. He was an athletic tight end, but he was a tight end. He came into the league, they moved him to receiver. Decent, not bad. I think he's got opportunity. Him and Ebron I think are gonna, you're gonna see them each week. One of them's gonna kind of be the hot guy when it comes to that kind of over the middle, big body tight end slot receiver type role. So they're not. I don't think they're consistent weekly starters, but I think they're going to give you nice weeks when they have good weeks. when they're getting fed. So Paul says Funchess never learned how to use his body. Well, yeah. I mean they never taught him how to be a tight end. So when he came to the NFL, they tried to make him a wide receiver, and he's still trying to figure out how to do that. But he's young enough that he can still develop. And still get better. So. He's in a good spot in Indy. It's just a 1-year deal, but I would expect it to go longer as long as him and Luck are on the same page.
Yeah, I think he's in a great spot to grow for sure.
So, so those are the big news and notes right now. Now, obviously, we're just a day in training camp, and there's really only 4 teams that are in right now, and that's rookies that have reported. So we're not getting much more than rookies that needed to sign or signed. They're going through conditioning and making sure everybody is ready to roll. If there's questions out there, make sure you guys shoot them out. We're going to be wrapping up here shortly because it is kind of a quiet week. As we get into training camp, there'll be a ton more stuff to talk about. And like I said, I'll be, make sure you follow me on Twitter. I'll be tweeting live updates from Colts camp when I'm there next week.
Dude, that's so sweet that you're going to Colts camp.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I'm going to make sure I take my kids down for one day as well, because as much as I am a Detroit guy through and through. My daughters were born in Indiana, so they are Colts fans, which drives me crazy. But I'm going to take them down, let them have a good time. I think there's a day for families, so I'm going to try to get down there a little bit, a few different times, and try to get some good information out of there see what we find out. Anthony,
No.
Anthony, you're the man. So he says all these excuses for Funchess making me sick.
Come on, man.
I'm not making excuses. You know what? I could build the case either way for him to be successful or him not be successful. And then Anthony comes back and says, "No, keep talking." Anthony must be great with the ladies. He treats them like crap and then tells them they're sweet. You know, like he's got the moves down. He's making me feel like a pretty girl all over again. Yeah, I mean, well, those are the big news. So, if you've got questions, push them out. If you guys haven't been keeping it locked into rotoheat.com, we're getting ADP up. We are constantly drafting. If you're in Division 4, you're not drafting very quickly because that division is the slowest, and that seems to be the one that I'm in. So Division 4 is drafting slow, but we're doing ADP constantly. So we got PPR, we got rookie PPR, we got Superflex stuff going on. I've got my IDP rankings for those of you other than Anthony that like IDP. My rankings are up on the site. I think mine and Colin's are up on the site, I should say, because we are the IDP guys on there. But that's a place you want to be. Keep it locked to Twitter, the Facebook page, the Discord chat, Twitch for our live streams. We go live. Rick is going to be doing Wednesday nights. I think next Wednesday I'll be on Rick's Heat Seekers, and then Thursday night obviously doing my stuff. So keep it locked into all our different streaming platforms.
I'll be
trying to keep talking. What's that?
I'll be tuning into that one next week.
It'll be interesting. I always love chatting with Rick because I never know what's going to happen. Him and I either we're completely opposite ends of things, or we're on the same page. So who knows? Anything's possible when you get Rick and I in a room. Is there anything that I'm missing, Chris? Is there anything that you wanted to talk about? Anything that's hot on your mind? Trades that are out there that have been getting you excited or driving you crazy? I'm gonna try to pander to Anthony and get him excited. I'm gonna keep talking. So, is there anything else you've got?
I'm trying to. I need to build some running back depth in the league that I'm in, and I'm trying to decide on who I should sell, but it's tough because I don't want to sell anybody.
There you go. I guess you've done it. You don't want to sell anybody.
Well, I just traded for Evans. I traded for Amari Cooper early on in the season, or when the season was done.
Off-season, yeah.
And then I traded for Alvin Kamara. I have Deshaun Watson, Nick Foles, and Derek Carr, and Ryan Tannehill. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm kind of thinking of selling a quarterback to get some running back, but I don't know what to think. It's tough, man.
You said your quarterbacks were Watson. Who else?
Derek Carr, Nick Foles, and Tannehill.
Well, obviously, you can't sell Tannehill because he's not, until Mariota, unless you can do some sort of package. So, does the Mariota owner, are they weak at quarterback? And with having Mariota,
I have no idea. But I was talking to the buddy today, and I asked him if he wanted Watson. I said, I do Deshaun Watson and a 2023rd. Tell me if this is too outlandish. Does Watson and a 2023rd for Matt Stafford, Tyreek Hill, and Kenyon Drake.
Well, the tough thing is that Deshaun Watson's your QB1, and he's young enough that he'll be a QB1 for the foreseeable future unless he gets hurt. It's not terrible, but it feels like you're not really getting a stud piece in return. Hill, see, everybody's kind of the world's a little split on Hill too. Like, I'm one of those guys that I think Hill is going to play most of this year and probably be successful, but I was never a huge Hill guy. Like, I don't love him. I like him. He's a back-end wide receiver one in my mind in most cases, most years. So,
see, and I agreed with you, like the same. I had the same mentality as you because I just thought, oh yeah, this dude's just really fast, like, And then all of a sudden he's the wide receiver one in a couple of my leagues. I don't know if anybody else's, but I mean, Mahomes kind of makes him a legit I think, pretty elite wide receiver. I don't know.
Well, Mahomes definitely makes him better. The community is saying that that's to keep Watson. Everybody that's watching says you need to keep Watson. The tough thing for me is, in Superflex, like I want a stud quarterback, at least one. The Roto Heat 96 league, I've got 2.5. I mean, with Wilson, Goff, and Kirk Cousins. So I want at least one stud and one good quarterback. So Stafford is a good quarterback and a nice startable Superflex option. But you at that point, then you're leaning on Stafford, Derek Carr, and Foles. That isn't as sexy as having Deshaun Watson. Like Derek Carr would be, and Tannehill to the Mariota owner. Like those are the two guys that I would be trying to shop, because I'm not a Derek Carr guy. Like Derek Carr's okay. He's a nice QB3, but I wouldn't want him as like my weekly starter because I just don't know what to think about Oakland.
Yeah, I mean, I've convinced myself that I like Derek Carr now.
I don't have an issue with him, but I don't know that you can build your team around him. Like
No.
That's the scary thing is like, okay, if he can't be a stud for you and he can't be a weekly starter and a guy that you can build around, well then what can you get for him? Is the hype moving in the right direction with AB and some of these other moves they've done to get him some value back in Superflex? I don't know. I haven't seen him move in any trades recently, so.
Well, I think I'm at the point now in that league where I just have to hold for now and just wait for the season to start, wait for something to happen in training camp. Because, I'm kind of topped out right now with what I can do, I think. So.
Yeah, and I had mentioned it last week talking about trades that at this point in the offseason, unless I'm getting a trade that is insanely tilted towards me, I'm probably not trading the player because we're so close to camp. Things change immediately once camp starts. Guys start getting hyped up. You start hearing news. So I try not to go crazy unless I get a great offer or I take over a team that's rebuilding. Paul's in here watching, so I've already been talking. I jumped in his league, and the team isn't. It's not amazing, but it's definitely closer to dumpster fire than it is good, which is fine because I don't have any teams that I'm rebuilding right now. So I wanted to try to take on a rebuild. But so rebuilds or somebody offers me something crazy. Otherwise, I just don't move. Like I've had guys trying to make trade offers for Leonard Fournette and guys that I'm like, I'm cautiously optimistic. Like right now, Leonard Fournette has no competition, so he could get all the pass catching opportunities in Jacksonville and the runs. Quell Armstead's not going to do anything. I mean, he's not going to take that job from him anytime soon. And what else they got? I mean,
Jacksonville is going to be that team next year in the draft that's going to be taking a running back. So, yeah, if Fournette does it,
if Fournette plays Fournette and we see him finally be successful and healthy the whole year or most of the year, if he plays 13 games, he's going to be an RB1.
Oh, for sure,
easily. So,
but it's the matter of is he going to play 13 games?
He has a better chance of playing 13 games than Tyreek Hill.
Yes.
True.
This is
That's
true.
my hot take.
When are we going to find out what's going on with that, anyways?
Well, you know how the NFL works. The NFL takes their sweet time, and then they do the crazy stuff. Because the audio came out and things are starting to look like maybe the chick is involved and doing some crazy stuff. I mean, who knows what the NFL is going to do?
It's so ugly, this whole situation. Like, just tell us what he's getting and move on with it.
And Paul, I don't disagree. Armstead isn't bad. I'm just saying that he's not better than Fournette, and he's not going to carve out this amazing role. Fournette has nobody that's really going to take stuff from him unless he's hurt or something like that. If he falls out of good graces. Right now, it seems like him and management are on the same page, so that's a plus.
Well, they took away all his money, so.
You know what? That's not a bad thing. Now, as a running back, not getting your fifth-year option picked up is great. He balls out this year, there's somebody's going to make it rain for him. As a running back, I would want the fifth-year option. I would want to test the market, see where I'm going to get the most money, because your career is only going to be 3 to 6 years unless your name's Frank Orr or Sean McCoy, and then you're going to play till you die. Yeah, and that's the tough thing, Paul, is Fournette's ankle could be the thing that takes him out. And if it does, if his ankle is still a piece of glass, then he's toast.
Yeah, the Madison hype is.
Oh yeah, Madison. I think Amir Abdullah has a better chance of starting if Dalvin Cook goes down than Madison. I mean, Madison, after people started hyping him up, I went back and continued to watch. In Minnesota's offense, Madison, I just don't see him having that same type of. I don't see where people are so excited about Madison, but that could just be me. I mean, that could just be crazy because I've been down on this running back draft class, period. I mean, David Montgomery, Miles Sanders, none of these guys, Josh Jacobs, I'm super excited about any of them.
Yeah, no, I mean, Josh Jacobs' value is just through the roof right now, so I didn't get him anywhere, so I'm just like, whatever. But the one...
Paul says Madison has good feet, but is a terrible athlete.
Well,
if he's not a good athlete, then that just tells you everything right there.
What do you think about Gurley when he finally spoke? Well, I guess somewhat spoke to some analysts there about his knee, saying it's good, and that we'll just see what happens in training camp.
Well, they're smart to limit Gurley's touches. Get him somewhere around 15 touches a game. He's still going to be dynamic. He's still very good. I mean, people have been dropping him like crazy when it comes to, looking at all the Roto Heat rankings of all the divisions that were drafting him. It's like, holy cow, people are really, he's fallen into the second round of startup drafts. He's fallen like crazy. I'm like, he's still an RB1. It doesn't matter how many touches you take from him, he's still going to make the most of his touches. He's very good. Yes, his knees are beat up, and he probably won't play a long career, but he's still good.
Yeah, I don't know. When he finally came out and said that we'll see how it is in training camp, I was just kind of like, dude, why can't you just say how you're feeling, man? Just tell us.
Well, and this
so
time
annoying.
But this time of year, all the guys feel good. They've been off for a month and a half, and their OTA. They've been off since the season was over, just working on their own. And OTAs obviously is work, and there's a lot that goes into it. But they've now had a month and a half where they've just been free and clear of OTAs. They've been doing their own thing. It's like, yeah, everybody feels great right now. They haven't got hit yet. Anthony, I agree with your take. So who's to say either won't trade for Hyde last year if injury happens? People need to chill on these backups. So the only way I wouldn't chill on a backup if he's a guy in an offense that he's going to get touches. Like these rookie running backs that have brought into teams like Jacksonville and Minnesota, they didn't come in with a role specifically carved out for him. David Montgomery, he went to Chicago knowing that he's going to get the Jordan Howard type role. So you're going to see him get, 700 to 1,000 all-purpose yards pretty easily this year. I could make the case that he could get, 1,100 yards this year. And 4 touchdowns. He's not going to get a ton of touchdowns probably, unless that role changes. Even in LA with Gurley, you could make the case that Henderson gets some touches every game. Now, is he successful with those touches behind a 70-year-old offensive line? I don't know. Andrew Whitworth's on the downside of 30. You've got Sullivan who's in the mid-30s. You've got, just a patchwork offensive line. So
hey, that offensive line was pretty damn good though. Still,
I'm not saying the Golden Girls aren't going to be fine. I'm just saying that they're just older. That takes a toll on dudes.
No, for sure, absolutely. If Malcolm. It's going to be, I don't know, we'll see. It should be good for sure. It's just going to be interesting to see what happens this offseason in the training camp.
Excuse me. The nice thing is that, Andrew Whitworth is a stud. He's a left tackle that's smart. He knows how to take care of himself, and he helps keep that offensive line and moving in the right direction. It's not a bad offensive line. I'm just saying they're up there in age. Paul, I don't know whether to get offended by this statement because I don't know. I feel like you're really undervaluing Montgomery. So he says he doesn't see him getting more than 650 total yards this year. Who's going to get those other touches? Do you really think Mike Davis is going to take that role? Mike Davis has never been able to be successful at any level, at anywhere.
I don't know. I don't know. I can kind of I wouldn't say 650. That seems a little low, but did anybody in that offense go over 1,000 yards total? Like I think maybe Tariq Cohen or
think
maybe Howard.
I don't know.
Howard, I think,
Let's
did
look.
with
I think they both had.
receiving.
I think they were both right there. Both Cohen and Howard last year. Let's see here.
Jordan.
So they had. All right. So
No, Howard didn't go over.
Howard went over. So Howard
Yeah.
had 935 rushing yards and 145 receiving. And then Tariq Cohen had 725 receiving and 444 rushing. So both went over 1,000 yards combined. And the next closest rushing yards was Trubisky at 421. And obviously he had no receiving yards because, well, he can't catch his own passes. So if you look at that, so between Jordan Howard, I mean, Trubisky may still get his 421 or something in the 300 to 400 range, but you're looking at over 1,000 total yards, even just from Jordan Howard, because you have to think that Tariq Cohen's numbers are going to level out a little bit. I mean, that number feels 725 receiving yards feels high.
No, I can see him going another 700 and 700. I can see that being pretty possible.
I'll give it to you. I like Tariq Cohen. I like him a lot. But I just don't know. So what we're then saying, if we take Tariq Cohen out of the equation, is that we're saying that Mike Davis and Montgomery are going to have about 1,100 yards to split.
Excuse me, sorry. I don't see, I mean, unless, okay, myself personally, I'm not a huge Trubisky guy. I don't think he's, a very good quarterback, unless he takes the next step. So, I don't know. I think that's going to be, I think those running backs are still going to produce the same, like you said. Actually, yeah, now that we're sitting here spitballing, yeah, I can see it.
It's tough. It's tough for me. Like, this would be a conversation I would love to have Rick's input on, because he's obviously all things Chicago. For me, I feel like Mike Davis is more insurance, than anything. So I could see him taking a little bit from both guys, but I don't see him being anything more than a guy who spells either or covers injuries, things like that, because that's kind of the role he played in Seattle, and that's what Mike Davis has always been,
Yeah, no, Mike Davis is just going to be that guy that comes in for a series in the third quarter or something to give the guys a rest or something. I don't see him doing anything too crazy.
Yeah. Paul says Cohen's role isn't changing, and Mike Davis is just going to be annoying enough. Yeah, and he also says Robinson's another year removed from the ACL, and Miller has his rookie year jitters done. And that Rick loves David Montgomery, and we disagree on the talent of the player. Well, yeah, if you're thinking he's not going to get 650, then yeah, you disagree, because if Rick loves him, he thinks he's probably getting Jordan Howard's role then.
If Allen Robinson and Trubisky can continue what they did in the playoff games, in the playoffs there, I watch out. Maybe Allen Robinson will do what we thought he would do there. But
Scoop over on Twitch says Trubisky is not that good. If the offense takes a step forward, it will be through the run game. Montgomery is better than Paul thinks. Scoop, you're getting on our boomer.
Well, I'm glad that somebody else agrees with me that Trubisky's not that good. That makes you feel better.
See, the thing for me is I think Nagy can make Trubisky better. Like, you need, for those quarterbacks that had a lot of question marks coming out of college, like a guy like Daniel Jones also, if you have the right coach that can help him build the mental side of his game, because that's the big issue with Trubisky, is getting through his reads quickly, processing the game quickly, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, that type of thing. A good coach can fix that and help that and develop that. Matt Nagy, I think, can do that. Daniel Jones, I think, is going to have trouble in New York, because I don't know that Shermer can do that for him. So I don't hate Trubisky. I don't really like him either. I mean, as a Lions fan, I think Trubisky's a piece of trash, and I hope their team loses and he can't play this year or whatever. But that's only because I want Detroit to win. So
yeah, but that Bears defense will still carry them.
They'll beat us even without an offense. They don't even need to have any offensive guys out there.
Well, that defense is.
It is sweet. That Bears defense is very good.
I mean, Trubisky only threw for 3,000 yards last year.
Well, he didn't
24
have to. I mean,
touchdowns.
they protected him. And the way that Nagy's offense runs, they really needed to protect him. Like, that would have just kicked his butt, you know. Paul says there isn't enough pie for DM to eat, and Trubisky isn't good enough to make that pie get bigger. Well, that's true. He's not a very good cook at this point in his career. But for me, it comes down to the coaching. You know, if Nagy can help develop him, then that pie will get bigger. If Nagy can't develop him and he just is this for the rest of his career, well, nope. Then it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for everybody. Your Allen Robinson shares are junk. You know, if Trubisky doesn't get better, your Anthony Miller shares are probably not that strong if Trubisky doesn't get better. I mean, it really does affect everybody. You know, so that's my take on that. What other questions you guys got? I've now gone 18 minutes past for Anthony, and I'm doing my best, but at this point, I don't know that I've got anything else of value to bring to the equation. I am in the middle of going through this team that I got in Paul's league, but I haven't gotten far enough to really start making offers out. But I plan on it. I just haven't done it yet. So, you know, I would talk about it, but I haven't really done a whole lot with it yet. Hold on, let me pull it up, and we'll just talk through it a little bit. Seeing as we got nothing. Let's see here.
I'm in love with my 96 team too, by the way. Just
You get the warm fuzzies when you open up your roster.
oh yeah, I mean, I like having Zeke. This is my first share of Zeke, Philip Lindsay, and then I have all of Dallas's backups too. I didn't even realize I drafted them until after I got Zeke. I was like, oh, look at that.
Well, I took them all.
I have the whole backfield.
And that was my thing. I mean, like I said on the show a couple weeks back, when I went into the 96 draft, I wanted to get guys that I'd never had before. And my big two were DeAndre Hopkins and Saquon Barkley. Like, I didn't have 1-1 in any draft last year because I wasn't going to pay for it, and my teams don't suck. So, you know, it was like, okay, I'm going to have to find a way to get them this year. So I had to overspend. I've now tried to fix some of the things, you know, add depth at receiver and move Leonard Fournette for some pieces and things like that. So, you know, I like my 96er team.
Nice try, Bryce.
Look at Bryce. He's already laying the gauntlet down. He says your team sucks compared to his.
Well, no, but I agree with you too. Like pretty much everybody I have besides Deshaun Watson I've never had before. Zeke, Philip Lindsay, Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, Jarvis, Mark Andrews. So
Mark Andrews was a target for me at the beginning of the second round in like every draft I was in last year. I tried to make sure I had a pick so I could get him. I love Mark Andrews. I think he's going to be huge this year.
The way that they're talking about him in Baltimore right now, yeah, I'm glad I got him in this pool.
Oh well, yeah. Not only him continuing to grow and develop as an athlete and a pass catcher and all that. Hayden Hurst sucks. Like, I don't know why they wasted a first round pick on Hayden Hurst. Dude was already as old as Jason Witten, and he was a rookie. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
no, that just makes no sense to me. So Mark Andrews, for those of you that are watching, if you can get him, you probably can get him from cheap right now, or at least, you know, comparative to his value. He's huge. I love him. I'm a big fan. Last year's tight end class, I think we will look back and see a lot more value in it than some people thought. I mean, you know, Gesicki, I think will do well in Miami. Probably not this year, but probably over the next few years he'll get better. You know, Mark Andrews, another big fan. Yeah, exactly. Look at Paul agreeing with us. Hurst over Andrews made no sense. It's a true story. So I guess this isn't going to work. I'm trying to log into Flea Flicker, and Flea Flicker is flipping me the bird or something. This is my first league. This is the first league I've done in Flea Flicker, so I now have to get accustomed to a new platform, which is okay. I've always wanted to use Flea Flicker. I just haven't had to.
Does Baltimore throw? Well, I mean, if Lamar Jackson can figure it out, maybe.
Anthony, I call Hayden Hurst Billy Madison. Oh, that's classy. Very classy. Hayden Hurst is only there for Nudie Magazine Day, eh? Yeah. Baltimore does throw, and they do throw the ball to, Lamar Jackson liked Mark Andrews last year. I mean, if you looked at they build the rapport. I mean, that's something to be said there. You know, Lamar Jackson's going to look at him as a safety valve because he's going to be running for his life. I mean, that's just what Jackson does. So I think Mark Andrews is going to have value. You know, I think he's going to grow. I think last year he only had 450 and like 3 or 4 touchdowns or something like that. You know, I could easily see him getting in the 600 to 700 range and probably around the same amount of touchdowns. You know, 3 to 5, I'd guess. But I could see him easily continuing to grow in his fantasy stats. So, all right. Well, I think that's it. Unless there's any other questions, I don't see. Let me jump over. Twitch looks pretty quiet. Facebook is. I don't think we have any more questions. All right. So I'm going to wrap us up for tonight. Anthony, I gave you an extra 20-some minutes of our handsome, debonair faces and fantasy advice. So keep it locked into rotoheat.com. Keep it locked into our Facebook and Discord and Twitch and YouTube and Instagram and Twitter and all that other stuff that's out there. We're here to help. You know, we're now getting close to go time. You know, things are going to start heating up. So when you guys need your weekly advice, come to us. Come find us. If you need help setting your lineups, let us know. You know, also, if you're not subscribers on rotoheat.com, jump on there. That gives you access to some VIP content. You get some VIP chats in Discord that have just us studs in there helping you out with your fantasy teams. It also gives you access to some sweet premium content on the site, and it's super cheap. I think it's only like $2 or $3 a month. I mean, I know we've already got some people that are becoming yearly subscribers. So jump on that bandwagon early, and make sure you watch out for when Rick does the next T-shirt giveaways and next T-shirt opportunities. You know, get some of that sweet flame swag we got going there with the Roto Heat logo. You know, and jump on it. I mean, this is a great community. We got a lot of really good guys, not only writers, but folks in the community. I love watching the Facebook feed and responding and voting and just, you know, talking with people on Discord. I get a lot of DMs on Twitter of guys asking for advice on stuff. You know, Big Cheese, if you're still watching, you're the man, Big Cheese. I got this guy on Twitter, Big Cheese, I talk to all the time. He's the coolest dude. We talk IDP all the time. He's a good dude. Or we talk Dynasty all the time. Good dude. You know, so it's a great community full of good guys. Everybody follows rule number 1 very well. I don't know any dicks in the community. So, you know, this is a great place for you to come and ask questions and get advice and help make yourself a more dynamic owner and a better owner. And hopefully you're going to win more money. So, Chris, thank you so much for joining me again, dude. I love spending time with you. You're always fun to chat with. If nothing else, you'll get people to come out to throw tomatoes at you while you're talking.
Pleasure, man. Thank you for having me. Love being on it.
Awesome, man. All right, you guys have a good week. We'll see you next Thursday, and take care. See ya.